I am only one, but I am one. I cannot do everything, but I can do something. And I will not let what I cannot do interfere with what I can do. To my esteemed guests, honorable juries, chairman and chairwomen, member of the board, fellow colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, a blessed day to all. I am Ana Patricia J. Barcinal, an advocate of human trafficking and human rights. To start, if I were to question you, what if you were given the most appealing chance to escape poverty and you took it? Then you found out that your efforts landed you to the hands of human traffickers. What would you do? Human trafficking, to define, is a crime where a person is controlled and exploited for the benefit of someone else. Trafficking exposes to violence, abuse, neglect, and exploitation. According to UNICEF, or the United Nations Children's Fund, a child victim of trafficking is any person under 18 who is recruited, transported, harbored, received, or moving them from one place to another, or keeping them in a secret place for the purpose of exploitation, either within or outside the country. In my country, the Philippines, human trafficking is one of the broad and main issue. As reported over the past 5 years, human traffickers exploit domestic and foreign victims in the Philippines, and traffickers exploit victims from the Philippines abroad. As Philippine law enforcement reported identifying thousands of human trafficking victims each year, and unfortunately, the Philippines is undoubtedly a source country for human trafficking, with its citizens being trafficked in different parts of the world, mainly owing to the socio-economic conditions prevailing in different parts of the country, including growing poverty, youth unemployment, gender inequalities like discrimination, gender-based violence, especially against women and girls. Law enforcement information indicates that the Philippines is one of the largest known sources of online sexual exploitation of children, in which traffickers sexually exploit children individually or in groups. In live internet broadcasts in exchange for compensation wired through a money transfer agencies by individuals, most often in another country. The traffickers are often parents or close relatives who operate in private residences or small cyber cafes, and many children victims, girls and boys, are younger than 12 years. Reports in previous years asserted police conduct indiscriminate or fake raids on commercial sex establishments to extort money from managers and such. Some personnel working at the Philippine embassies reportedly withhold back wages accrued for domestic workers, subject them to domestic servitude in exchange for government protection services. Victims of human trafficking can experience devastating psychological effects during and after the trafficking experience. Many survivors may end up experiencing post-traumatic stress, difficulty in relationships, depression, fear, anxiety, guilt, or other severe forms of mental trauma. Therefore, I, as a concerned citizen and as a human trafficking advocate, I assist victims through work with non-profit groups and legal agencies or in partnership with government outreach work, but our country are currently facing so many crises, especially mentioning in this time of pandemic. Unfortunately, my country is lacking of funds to support me and this advocacy. My power and capabilities are literally not enough for this advocacy to be successful. Subsequently, I spread awareness and reach my advocacy to the public through classes, advertisements, and social media, and as a result, many citizens from other parts of the world are donating and supporting me for this advocacy to be done successfully. But stating the fact that life is not always in favor of what you want to achieve, and we can all experience hardship and facing our own battles. Not every time commoner people can give support. That's why I am standing and having this speech in front to all of you, knowing that you are in a great and successful organization in the whole world. With all due respect, I am asking for you to support this advocacy financially, spiritually, and physically. With the great help and support from all of you, I can make sure that everything will be smooth and manageable. By your help and support, the victims from human trafficking will have experienced psychological support, also the survivors who ended up experiencing post traumatic stress, difficulty in relationship, depression, memory loss, anxiety, shame, guilt, and other severe forms of mental trauma will be at good hands and be treated accordingly. In addition, to those countries, specifically to those individuals who are involved in exploitation, the country of the Philippines won't allow you to do the same crime again to other people. That's why the Philippine government implements the Republic Act 9208, or an act to institute policies to eliminate trafficking in persons, especially women and children, establishing the necessary institutional mechanisms for the protection and support of trafficked persons, providing penalties for its violations and for other purposes. In fact, trafficking and associated practices such as slavery, child labor, debt bondage, and forced marriage are themselves violations of basic human rights and are prohibited under international human rights law and punished under the Republic Act number 1036-8, an act providing for reparation and recognition of victims in human rights, and under Republic Act 7610, a Special Protection of Children Against Abuse, Exploitation, and Discrimination Act, providing for stronger deterrence and special protection against child abuse, exploitation, providing penalties for its violence, and for other purposes. To end, human trafficking is an open wound on body of contemporary society, a scourge upon the body of Christ. It is a crime against humanity. This is a quote coming from the late Pope Francis, stating that we must take time to see how humans should treat each other. Human is human. Remember that every person in the streets, in a club, on the internet, or in a hotel room, wherever they may be, have families and loved ones and hearts just as you do, and that they are worthy and enough. Now I am making a change. As what former US President Barack Obama said, change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. Thank you and Godspeed.